Seiken Densetsu, Secret of Mana, Square's increasingly genre-defying franchise found itself struggling to keep up in a market bent on change. Production slowed between entries, gameplay evolved in strange ways, and the series failed to form a singular identity. Not that that's an issue, but there, on that cliff, it's Secret of Mana! No, don't jump! The series deserved better. Full stop. Who gets what they deserve anyway? There's a lot to love, though, and it sucks that basically no one cares about these games, because I think they're worth remembering, and maybe should be remembered. I really don't think I have the words. Legend of Mana is an absolute mystery. Koichi Ishii walks into the office one day, lays all the old stuff out, and just lights it up like the 4th of July. New battle system, new aesthetics, different approach to storytelling, to world building, so many microsystems. This game is an archaeological excavation. It did okay, it sold alright, and though I think it's basically peak Mana, it's almost unrecognizable. Here's the setup. The mana tree done did a burn and protected the land by sealing its people and places into artifacts that you'll collect and place on the map yourself. You quite literally get to reconstruct the world. On top of that weighty burden, you have to pick your avatar, pick your starting weapon, and pick what part of the map your game is set in. Alright, so anxious people, you're out, see you next video. Like, gamers have enough trouble picking their Animal Crossing island layout. Trying to give me all that choice. Who the f you think I am? This game is weird, man, but breathtaking nonetheless. Thanks for reminding me, game, that beauty is dead. I can already hear the comments. This looks like a Flash game. Ooh. I'm sorry, these hand-painted backgrounds are mind-blowing. Just such incredible art direction. I'm serious, I stopped and stared so many times. Just look, are come in my eye, and the towns are full of all these Looney Tunes, these storybook characters. You feel so out of place walking around because you're one of the only humans in the game. You gotta love the designs. The literal woman in the Tutti Frutti hat, Cockney teapot. Oh, what's all this then? YouTube, innit? Then there's these green guys who, oh, well, that's fine. Hey, Niccolo, keep it to yourself. Everyone's got funny dialogue, really brings you into the world. What is this racist rabbit? I'm not racist, but I hate sproutlings. Just seeing them drives me crazy. These guys are scum. Don't listen to them. You should squish them. Dude! The game only progresses when you talk to the world's characters. Some of them have side quests, there's tons to do all around you, and there's no direction, just you and the world. And I love it. Eventually you'll end up in this or that dungeon, and the game looks a little funny. You know, back in the day, we had our top-down sword-swinging adventure. This is a little weird. Wow, I didn't realize Secret of Mana copied Streets of Rage. You shut the f*** up! The combat's pretty divisive, and for good reason. Beat-em-ups aren't bad inherently, it's just you and the enemies sliding around, doing a little back and forth, but this is what you do the whole game. And yeah, I'll do some mid-combat battle maneuvers from time to time, but what's the point? Even doing this super moves you unlock throughout is a toss-up because they'll lock you in place and enemies move fast enough to dodge sometimes. The best bet's usually slithering into range and mashing face. Mana bosses are back. Seriously, tons of cool designs at play. Some callbacks, looking good. I don't think I died even once, but conceivably, if you're playing badly, the bosses have some decent bite to them. Though a lot of it is control-relieving status elements and gigantic attacks, but what can you do? It's funny, I read up on the best weapons before I played, but gauntlets were getting trash-talked. Turns out you can pull the old one-man stun lock on almost every boss in the game. Game facts, communal information is misinformation. And it's hard to take the bosses seriously when you can send them flying away like any other enemy. Yeah, give him the old watch out! Holy shit. Oh. Oh my. Yo, slam dunk, I'm back to take out the trash. KBash, big cash, match ends in a flash. Get dunked, you dumb fuck. This game's the sum of its parts. It's not an incredible action game, but it works. But these games usually play at having a story. Not well, but they try. This game in particular got criticized for its story structure because, like I said, there's no true central through line. You're left to your own devices to get the ending your own way. So let's cut to the chase. You can wander around talking to everyone, doing everything, engaging with every system. You can tour the world in a grand adventure.
Yeah, baby, I'm getting hard. So hard for you, baby. This this real?
Or you can finish the game in 2 hours. This game has an unbelievable amount of variance and potential playtime depending on the player. It's possible you could stumble your way right to the quickest ending, but I doubt it. You get sucked into the loop of doing a quest, getting an artifact, and opening up more of the world because it's so beautiful and so colorful, and such an adventure. This game gives me the closest feeling to discovering Crystal Chronicles for the first time, escaping into a truly explorable world. In that way, it's surprising how much negativity was spawned by the story. Reviewers felt like they weren't getting a premium experience because having to inject yourself into the thing and dig around in it for meaning isn't good enough, I guess. The storylines that do exist are simple, but arguably more effective than anything the series did before this game. One of the stories almost got a tier. I'm not kidding. It's solid. There's also this one with some werewolves, a holy dragon where you partly play the villain, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but slam dunk, I'm back to take out the trash. It's all backed up by the soundtrack, and I usually don't talk about music in games, but this thing is sublime. Find the CD, put it in your cart. Now you've got some really good art. I want this to be more of an overview than a deep dive, but part of what pisses people off so much about the game is how absurdly deep it is. And you don't need any of it to beat the game. It's just there. It's fascinating. I wasn't kidding about the archaeological dig thing. There's a whole dead dinosaur kingdom buried in this disc. Stuff like triggering special events depending on where you place new stages on the map. You can look up a perfect placement guide, and thankfully you're not missing much by not following it. There's a spirit catching system. I mean, first off, to use magic in battle, you gotta create instruments, which that's a whole other thing, but you can lure spirits with instruments and then snatch them up for further use. There's a monster farm, monster catching, you can train your monsters, you can have computer partners with synchro abilities that barely affect the game. They're kind of like Final Fantasy Adventure NPCs, sometimes helpful, mostly useless. There's this needlessly complicated blacksmithing system that I totally forgot about because you can punch the final boss to death with store-bought items. You only need it for the higher difficulties. Even the skill system for battles, I glossed it earlier because again, unnecessary, but let's appreciate that the game lets you taunt, jump, backdash, spin, so much weird stuff. And all the abilities are unlocked by having other ones equipped, mixing and matching combat abilities. It's a combat system that, were it harder, you dig a lot deeper into. And for the archaeologists, you know, go nuts. Even the days of the week have in-game effects, with mana in the land being more powerful on different days in different regions, empowering or weakening the denizens, etc. And if you weren't looking, you'd never know it. And that's where I want to end this part. They say it's love it or hate it. I don't know if you have a soul if you hate this game. It's an experience unlike any other, and if you give it the time and the curiosity it deserves, you'll be infinitely rewarded with depth, exploration, a legend of mana. This game is virtually unknown, hardly anyone's covered it, and certainly not in any depth. And maybe it should stay like that. The game's better when it's discovered, you never know it was there, but it's something worth finding for yourself. I feel bad for Mana fans, but more than that, I feel bad for Koichi Ishii. Even light reading will reveal how Dawn of Mana happened, and it's a bit tragic. The market's changing, and Mana hasn't kept pace. All the biggest and best console games are 3D. What gives Mana? Ishii wants to make a game that explores the concept of touch, looks at the Havoc physics engine and says, "Hell yeah, boys, let's go!" Square's experimenting with polymorphic content, in other words, making their IPs everything and available everywhere. And then they drop all these side games on fans, but I want to talk about Dawn first, because it's the canonical fourth and final mainline entry, intended to follow Trials, you know, 11 years later. Yeah, I know Sword of Mana came before in 2003, but it's a remake, and I'll save it for another day. It was a game. It got lit up for focusing on the silly Mana story, ever the thorn in the series' side. It was fun enough to play, but not enough to revive the series in the West. So we're left with a game that's disconnected from fans, taking the series in a new direction, and is highly experimental. What could possibly go wrong? Here's the setup. It's a 3D action game that looks a lot like Kingdom Hearts, but the combat's slow and grounded. You do a little platforming and a lot of object interaction. Oh, you're playing as this kid Keldrick, and you get into all kinds of trouble with your pal Ritzia. Ew, kill it all! They'd been hearing the same criticism for a while.
Trials had a dumb story. Sword of Mana remade a dumb story. Legend of Mana didn't hold my hand.
So now we got Cardboard and Piss the Hedgehog, and Fairy character.
Healthy?
Oh, that won't get annoying. Anyway, Keldrick gets a plant arm and now he can't jack off, so he takes his anger out on every living thing in a series of giant zones. The point of every stage is to level up your character by killing things and collecting stat tokens, specifically by making enemies panic and hitting them for even more tokens than you get for just killing. Now you can make enemies panic in a lot of ways. The environments are really interactive, stuffed with objects and breakable bits, and a lot of genuinely funny moments emerge from typical gameplay.
Oh, this is chaos! Holy shit!
I'm kind of surprised it got so much hate, because for what it is, a game where you bully hapless AIs with the Havoc physics engine, it seems right up the alley for what gaming YouTube is into. But a lot of little things are holding it down, like the camera.
Oh, I know, never heard that one before.
Manipulating objects, even aiming objects to punt, is difficult. There's no real guide, and you're left to feel out physical space for yourself. The results can be cool, but the process is finicky and annoying, like trying to throw a marble at a stick. Sometimes there'll be a door, and there's a key that's hidden on one of the enemies in these titanic fields, or it'll be hiding behind you and you'll never know. Oh, I fell down. I guess I gotta climb all the way back up again. Like, it's just not made for expedient, enjoyable gameplay, and it's hard to feel in control. Inflicting panic can be an issue too, which is something you need to do to really level up. Sometimes stage objects help, but oftentimes you'll have to lasso enemies and whack them with each other, which is cool, but the system doesn't always work. Or you'll have to slingshot some elemental ammo, which is limited and hard to track down sometimes. And none of that would be a problem, except that a number of bosses basically require you to save specific ammo types that you won't know beforehand. Sometimes it's easier just replaying a level after realizing you're stuck. Anyway, can I get a story check-in?
1,000 years. Mavolia. Divine creature.
Oh no, she's got the same number of dimensions she previously had. There she goes, using the power of evil to destroy the world. What? Is this a Golden Sun thing? Like the bad thing actually saves the world? That's dumb. Oh no. Most of the bosses are pretty decent fights, like a lot of them don't use the game mechanics and object manipulation to the fullest, though some of them make the effort, and they can be pretty difficult to be honest. I like this ridiculous tank. We've been fighting trees and dragons and crabs, and then this psychopath gets his vroom vroom on and it's completely ridiculous. The thing that everyone complains about, that silver bullet against the game, is it treats itself like an arcade game, not an RPG. You do a stage, gather level ups, kill a boss, watch a cutscene, start over. Who greenlit this shit? You lose everything you gain between stages. The only solace is earning medals by doing arbitrary tasks like killing enough enemies, which you can equip for some preloaded power. Only this is Mana, and you made me work so much in the level, and now it's basically wiped. That will never feel good, especially because stronger enemies start showing up in later levels, and if you're not working hard, you know, really abusing that panic system, or you haven't collected that many medals, which they limit anyway, you really feel like a weakling in the endgame. It sucks. Fun if you're a sucker or a mana apologist, but damn. But we gotta talk about the real tragedy here. This game's soundtrack is f***ing criminal. It's so good. I mean, what do you expect? Kenji Ito's a master, and this OST has some absolute killers. The game's art style is decadent, whimsical, over-fluffed even, but it's charming. It looks really damn good a lot of the time. And comparing it to Kingdom Hearts is nothing but praise. They managed to get a different artist and still capture what Mana should look like in 3D, at least if you ask me. And I don't want to pull the old, it's a bad Mana game meme, because this game's trying something different. It's aspiring to new heights, and it has a lot of really cool ideas.
No! What a bunch of poppycock.
But the execution isn't quite right, and Mana doesn't have a fifth mainline game. That's soul-crushing. Getting canned for trying something new. Can I get a final story update? God, he's just dropping cliches. Look at this filth. Darkness can't exist without the light. Humans are the big dumb. I gave birth to a bladed weapon. What? I was gonna animate this part, but I figured YouTube would ban me outright. So, you know, you can't say they never did anything for anyone. Alright, maybe a little bit. No matter what any critic said, the game's still in touch with Mana at its core. I know that sounds crazy, but the game embodies that spirit of playfulness, childlike whimsy. If you think you can do it, you might be able to. experiment, you know? I just wish it pushed the plant arm thing a bit harder and tightened the mechanics. And it's still got a suitably epic story. I mean, even if it's absolutely riddled with cliched nonsense, when the hell did Mana ever care if its story was good? Make a childlike world, expect a childlike story.
Mark my words. The only place you're going is down!
Okay, it's dumb, but I can appreciate the effort, and it's not like the game's missing content. The story takes its time, the game's pretty fleshed out, and there's all kinds of weird bonus content if you're just looking to screw around. Give it a shot, and maybe down a few while you're at it. But Dawn of Mana is only part of the puzzle. Like I said, it probably didn't recapture longtime fan interest, even if it was the great fourth entry to the series, because it was so incredibly divergent. And Mana had all kinds of tricks pouring out of their sleeves. Maybe a few too many. Some people take issue with the word fall or death when I talk about a franchise, but to me it's about golden ages and everything that comes after. Few franchises are truly dead. We've seen all kinds of classic games revived in recent years, and yeah, Mana didn't really die, but if you look at the series' heyday and what came after, you get a pretty clear picture of where the series sat for Square circa what? 2000 on? Remake of the first game, mediocre dungeon crawler, an attempt was made. Japan-only phone game, a DS RTS. Just get the old 12 gauge. Blam! I don't want to say they gave up, I just don't think they had a clear, concise vision for the series. Granted, leading up to 2006, their games did increasingly worse in the West, though they were consistent in Japan, and the games were increasingly spaced apart. It's possible that Mana wasn't seen as a big priority for the company, wasn't a heavy hitter like it used to be, so they pulled a buckshot approach and developed on everything. And that's how you get World of Mana. Much like Final Fantasy and the Ivalice Alliance, World of Mana took the IP, which to be crystal f***ing clear was doing awesome things in 95 and 99, and shattered it! The DS games are especially interesting because, here's a sequel to a spin-off Final Fantasy game on the DS. Oh yeah, here's another spin-off DS title by Square. Here's the Mana DS games. Wow! I don't know how else to put it. They feel like low-budget jack-off titles, dipping their toes in the water. Square-budget toe genre water. Look at what you made me do, Square. I'm on the hooch! Apply the disinfectant. Cue the nerds who like this game in the comments. Yeah, okay, dude, I bet this game's so good. It's cool they got the artist from FFTA2 for this. Less cool that they went from having a style to not. I mean, look at the cover. What about this is Mana? Nothing! At least in the past they were connected by gameplay similarities or connected by art. This is only Mana because it says so right there, and Mana monsters appear in the game. This game is so stupid. You've heard bad fantasy names, but are you ready for Roget? Roger? Roget? Where are his organs though? Hold on. How about Cucus? Oh, my bad. How could we forget about Yurchel and Sand Arrow? Anyway, the game's an extremely average RTS that you could get some fun out of, I think, if you really liked waiting and the art style. And f***ing Cucus. I'll bet my left kidney Mana fans didn't care about this one, and I can't see why anyone else would either, unless they're RTS enthusiasts. For RTS games on the Nintendo DS. But hold on. It's time for a new game. Children of Mana could have been great. 2D Mana-style dungeon crawler with selectable character, selectable colors, spirit companion, multiplayer option, cool bosses. Everything looks good. Plays like ass, to be clear. I'd rather be playing Sword of Mana, even the original, because it's a fairly speedy game and this game's just loaded with laggy, restrictive moves and repetition and no party members. You know, these games make me wonder what they thought Mana was in the old days, because the easy answer is the art style, the relatively lame plot bits and names they continuously recycle, the kid with a sword hitting monsters thing, maybe even the multiplayer option. These things are Mana, but Street Fighter, for example, is more than just two two dudes fighting on a 2D stage. Or else the world would remember Azura Blade or whatever. So Mana must be more than what a quick scan reveals. Maybe Mana is that whimsical, mystical land of adventure. Surprises lurking around every corner. Treasures hidden in every nook, every cranny. Not equipping stat gems. Maybe Mana was about working towards a greater goal that managed to suck you in because it had life and soul, some ineffable charm. Not breaking every pot until the randomized dungeon key pops out. Maybe Mana had strong character and party building. You know, genuine options for customization and alternative methods of play, not cosmetics and irrelevance. At the very least, Mana had the courage to be itself. Not a buckshot from 100 feet aimed at a fist-sized target. Everything that came after was a remake, or Japan exclusive, and every time it's the same thing. No scope, no vision. Play it safe, cut the budget. Do okay or just flop. No one cares. The series, if it has a chance to be anything more than a revenant, to capture any of those fleeting embers, must honor what made the series great. Synthesize old and new. Become more. Or remain lost. Hey, it's KBash. Special thanks goes out to my $4 patrons, whose names are on the screen. The show's on its way somewhere good thanks to the community's generosity. And special thanks goes out to my extra generous patrons who are Errol, Aquarii Wave, Azero, Bazcart, Boha, Caesar T, Chief, Color Crimson, Corgi the Lad, Crusader Bear, Cyle LaPread, Don't Worry About It, Dylan Coffee, Exa, Frankenstitch, Harkaj, Huey, Jason Lasky, Jaden, J-Daz, Joke Frog, Justin Sherry, Kelvin, Lady Cerebellum, Lego Sid, Markules, Max Gomez, Milky Moo Official, Neatsy, Ol Burgle, Orn Magnus Palson, Quillworth, Reggie Rodriguez, Salty Smasher, Simp God, Super Sandwich Guy, Tom Krawick, Venom, Vic, Walter Taggart, well shit, Zane the Impure, Zane the Pure. If you'd like to help support the show and make it even better, check out my Patreon. We've got all kinds of goals and lots of rewards in store. Stay tuned for more. KBash out.